trivia is right here.
I'm failing that one for sure.
So everybody's got an option to put $5 on it right now.
No.
On trivia? Yeah, no.
Josh.
I'll be PayPaling somebody.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Nick.
No, dude, I'm the one asking the question.
Yeah, no, I'd probably be pretty good at it, but I don't know what kind of history you're talking about.
I wish I could do it. All right. Hey, what's up, guys? If you're just tuning in right now, you're back on another episode of If Shop. I think this is like the 4th or 5th one now, something like that. Well, anyhow, today we're talking about big baits, this, big baits that. I don't care if it's a big giant rat, a swim bait. We're talking to some big bait specialists. We got Matt Newman, the creator of iRod, West Coast swim bait, big bait legend. One of his best friends, Paul Bailey, a good friend of mine. That's how I got to meet the two of those through Paul, then met Matt, and then met up with Matt, and vice versa. And then I got my other buddy, Josh Parris, who's known in Northern California Mother Lode Lakes for being a swim bait specialist. And Paul Bailey's a swim bait specialist over at Clear Lake and Berryessa and all these other places that Josh doesn't go to. And then we got all the way down to SoCal, back to Matt Newman. So the good part is you guys pretty much have California covered. Now, the perspective that we're doing today, all of these individuals here fish competitively, from local tournaments to high-level West Coast Open tournaments, from FLW, from Bass, you name it. These guys that fish at the highest level you can on the West Coast, and they're all avid tournament anglers as well as big bait specialists. And the reason why I'm bringing these three on is I believe they offer a much different perspective than just your quote-unquote swim baiter. They're not just a trophy chaser. So the first thing I'm going to say to you guys right here is, what do you think of someone? What's the first thing you think of when someone calls themselves a swim baiter?
I'll jump in. I guess the fellow that did that that picture comes up with somebody that's got 2 rods and 25 swim baits, and they claim it. I guess they're very proud of it. That's a swim baiter.
Just say it, Paul. Just say it.
I mean, the way this sport's gone the last 5, 6, 7 years, not just bass fishing, but just the swim baiting part of bass fishing in general. It's kind of that's the way it's going. It's like guys just throw a swim bait, and that's all they want to do, and they think that's the coolest way to catch a fish, and all their friends think they're cool for it, and I get it. I kind of get it. It's one of those things. I like to catch fish. I don't care what kind of fish it is. I don't care, big, small. It's fun catching fish. What really brought swim baits into perspective for me was that just brought a more fun element into the sport. Because there's already so many techniques and whatever. You could do whatever you want out there to get bit, and that's what's cool. But bringing the swim bait element to the sport and to tournaments itself is kind of what got me excited and got me into it. Not many guys, were doing it back then, and Matt will tell you, and I'm sure Josh will tell you, not many guys back in, the mid to late 90s were throwing those big baits all day long. And that's kind of what got me into it, was the fact that not many people were doing it. So you don't want to be part of the norm, because at that point the fish are trained.
And you're not cool at that point either.
And then everybody's doing it, but yeah, that's kind of what drew me in, was the aspect that you could go out there, do something different that people were kind of scared to do, and beat them. And that's what drew me in, was the tournament aspect of it, not necessarily just going out for glory and chucking a swim bait, but it was more the tournament aspect for me of the damage you could do on a swim bait in a tournament.
Right. Now, Josh, aside from knee-high fluorescent socks, what is it about somebody calling themselves a swim baiter? Come on now.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's become the new mainstream, if you will. It's like, I don't know, like they were saying, kind of, it's the cool thing to do now, which I get it. Like everybody said, it's fun. It's addicting. It for sure is. But I think it's one of the things that people, also being a, full-time guide, that's 90% of my trips are swim bait trips, to where I've had trips where within the first hour, dude's like, this isn't what I expected. Can we just go catch fish? And it's like, yeah, I mean, no, and he's like, I thought we were going to bit by now. It's like, no, we're grinding this out 1 to 3 bites.
Paul must deal with that a ton too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's the, kind of everybody wants to do it until you kind of find out the work that goes into doing it and being successful at it. I mean, what kind of got me into it was a tool for big fish. Overall, people are like, "Oh, you're a swim bait dude." No, I'm a big fish dude. I like big fish. That's just one of my tools to. I mean, that's just one of my tools to catch big fish. If they're eating a Cinco, I'll throw a Cinco. But big baits, swim baits. That's where I've kind of gotten into for chasing big fish. So I don't know. It's.
Paul did catch a world record on a worm. I'm just going to put that out.
Which is, you catch a big fish on everything, to where, I mean, I've had trips where we threw swim baits all day, and then the day it's like, oh, let's just put 1 or 2 in the boat. Dude catches a 7 on a Cinco.
Yep.
You're like, should have done that all day.
No, we've been there.
I mean, yeah. So
Newman's known for his swim bait presence, but he also says he's very open to everything and also likes playing with his worm. And Paul Bailey confirmed that to me.
I get a lot of people hate the drop shot. I hear that all the time, and especially people want to bring it up to me thinking I'm just a swim bait guy. I think I was, without sounding like an arrogant idiot, I think I was probably one of the first 1 or 2 people in the country to start drop shotting. Mm-hmm. And I love it. I'm going to get roasted for it here now, but I don't mind the drop shot. I mean, I can fish it all day. I'm catching, if I catch 2-pounders or 10s, I don't get the butterflies. But if you fish the tournament, there's a time and a place. We'll get into that later, but it doesn't give me butterflies fishing it, which is what I think I found. For me, what's happening now is I need to have the butterflies to be excited. If it's not a tournament, I'm struggling with the going out and worming up fish. I struggle with that.
Matt's drop shot.
Yeah. So I like I said, I love the worm, and on tournament days, I've just I've pre-fished with swim baits and just say it's not going to happen, and I'm going to fish this drop shot for 8 hours, and I'm happy with it. I'm content and I'm excited. But take away the tournament, kind of over it. I need the butterflies.
So here's an introductory question, and Matt, I'm going to stay with you, and then we'll rotate back the other way. Now, have you caught more double-digit fish on a swim bait or conventional baits?
Well, swim bait, yeah.
And how many double-digit fish do you think you have total throughout your career? I know you've probably lost count. It's probably ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I never really ever counted, but I just think about like in a week when it was good, I probably caught 40. Actually, I probably caught 40 in a day. Over 10 pounds. I'm sorry, over 10 pounds.
I've almost passed out.
Yeah, no, we're thinking on a swim bait. No, over 10 pounds. I don't know. I mean, I've had so many good days. 100 sounds like a lot, but maybe 100 because I've had some good days in that realm. 60 to 100. It's hard to say over 10 pounds.
Right.
It got to be a blur like during our punker days. There was days where we were catching. I now see that number's way off because there was days where we were catching 8 or 9 over 10 pounds in one day, and that.
Oh my God!
So that number's got to be over 100, I guess, on a swim bait, or if you call it punker a swim bait. That was a big portion of them for a while.
We're going right back to that now, Josh. How many do you think you have over 10 pounds?
19, 20, right in that ballpark.
Yeah, and I know, and you know what? Hold that a second. What's your PB, Matt?
Mine's only 14.
Only.
Yeah, I've had clients have bigger
weak
fish,
bro.
I literally had clients catch 2 bigger fish than that. I was mortified. I made the cast for them too. Put it in their hand and go, here, wait a second, twitch I'm like, that one's bigger than mine.
All right. Yeah, dude, that happened to me. I brought my little cousin out. It was like his second time bass fishing ever. And it was an upper teen that we lost at the boat, but it would have definitely been my PB. I throw a wacky rig Senko and go to hand it to him, and the rod's like, whoa, while I'm holding it. I'm like, that's a good one. Hang on. And then I see her like, so Josh, out of those 20 some odd double digit, I think you're being modest. I've seen you post more than 20 double digit fish, but since you're a modest dude, what's your PB?
14.5.
All these
that half
14 pounders, Paul.
0.5. Gotta add that on there. You know, halfway to 15.
Halfway.
Hey, if we're talking world record, those ounces are.
Yeah.
They matter.
All right, Paul. Same question for you, bro. How many double digits you think you got, and what's your PB?
Oh man, I honestly I never kept count either. You know, we kind of just did it to do it, and you know, we thought back then that it would never end. You know, we kind of didn't know. At least I didn't know. You know what? You know the cycles that lakes go through and fish phases and what human impact has on everything with laws and regulations and all that. So I mean, I never kept. If I were to guess, I'd say I'm over 50. Probably between a 50 and 100 somewhere in there.
All right, so since we're doing this, I have the least, guys. I have 11, but 9 on the show, which is pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
So now we're going to get back to what is classified a big bait. Now, Josh Parris threw a big bait only tournament at New Maloney's. When was that again, Josh?
Last November.
I know the bite wasn't fire, but what did you eliminate that you were on the verge of saying, I don't know if that's a big bait or not? How did you go about that? Because I remember us having a discussion, and you may have a 8-inch worm, but it's not an 8-inch bait, you know?
Yeah, it was tough, and that's where, I mean, I just tried my best. I don't remember the exact verbiage I used in the rules, but it was swim baits, glide baits, wake baits, and top water over 6 inches. No swimming worms, you know, like no 6-inch swim Cincos, you know, like it had to be, you know, like a swim bait. But even then, I mean, there's some kind of, I guess, gray area in there to where, you know, like I had people calling me about like, can I throw a 2-inch wake bait with a 9-inch tail? And it's like, and then come on, man, no, it doesn't work, you know, but that's kind of, I just figured over 6 inches, you know, and it's not a worm. I mean, you know, like, I mean, I would have even allowed, like, if you had a 9-inch crankbait, go for it, knock yourself out, you know, or 9-inch rip bait, go for it, knock yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of how I saw it going forward. We'll see. I mean, everything worked out fine. There wasn't any problems. I think, you know, I'm hoping to do another one this year, and then hopefully I'm trying to get everything in the line to do like a series next year. Hopefully. We'll see. I mean, I know the BABC has done it, and he's gotten to where, like, just kind of beaten up on his rules and whatnot, to where they've had to really adjust them. They don't, you know, kind of, to where it's like, nah, it's in the spit you got. So that was my ruling on it. But
how do you look at that, Matt?
For what if you're talking about a tournament, I think that a 6-inch, what he just said is a perfect tournament swim bait rule. If you're talking out of a tournament, 8-inch, nothing under 8-inch. 7-inch is pretty gay. Excuse my language.
You can't say that anymore.
You can say it here. It's all good. If you're offended, unsubscribe. I'm the only social media person that tells people to unsubscribe.
Sorry about that. So, I think it should be 8-inch minimum for a swim bait. 7's still kind of small. You know, you see these small ones. I guess there's squeak by, but for a tournament, you got to have some weigh-ins. You got to have some fish at weigh-ins, and I think that, you know, a HUD 68 compared to a HUD 8-inch will bring a lot more fish to the scales.
Right.
But in the switch part is, I will say, all the big swim bait tournaments I've ever been a part of, 8-inch baits or better always win. That's always what wins.
Yeah, because they have more drawing power.
It's
yeah.
You know.
That's true.
Paul, weigh in, brother.
I mean, yeah. I see. Well, you can't call it a big bait swim bait tournament because then you got too many classifications and it's too broad of a window. You call it a swim bait tournament, then you got to set it at an inch or 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches, whatever you want to set. If you call it a big bait tournament, if you have to ask if this is a big bait, you're not allowed to bring it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Perfectly said.
Super
If you
simple.
have to ask, you can't bring it.
That's it. If you got to ask, you probably shouldn't throw it. No.
Yeah.
That would be my subject.
Glue an extra inch onto your 7-inch Senko.
No, you can take 2 7-inch Senkos and make it a 14-inch Senko. And if anybody says that's not considered a big bait, they're not allowed to sign up for the tournament now. That would be that's still considered a big bait to me. Now, but at the same point, yeah, it doesn't move, it doesn't swim, but anybody that's got the balls to go throw a 14-inch bait all day should be able to enter the tournament.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think we're all on that. We're all on that same page there.
Yeah.
Now, I'll speak on behalf of you guys in this sense that all of you guys, I've heard of all of you guys way before I met all of you guys. So luckily, I'm in a great place to meet you guys. Turns out you're all great friends. You're all good people, which is freaking awesome. I'm glad you're not a douche. Like, let me think. I'm just playing. Now, let me ask you this, and we're going to start with Paul, and we're going to work backwards here. What do you think it is about your swim bait game, Paul, that helps you make a name for yourself? Because I know a lot of people out there, they want credibility in this industry, and I know how good of a person you are. And I always talk about, I wish I had Paul to life coach me to put on my socks in the morning. Now Paul's not going to tell you this, guys, but I've seen Paul guiding. I've been in Paul's boat. Paul does this Zen thing to where he does Indian style and sits down in front of his trolling boat. He life coaches you. Okay, here's what we're going to do. It could be loud out there, but it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's nice and calm. So you got to listen up. Paul lowers your heart rate. He gets you into that zone. So what is it that you think helped make you such a great swim bait angler?
I think it's confidence. It really boils down to confidence. When I was younger and my brother and Matt and these guys were kind of showing me the ropes and telling me what to do basically, because I didn't have a clue. I was a kid that raced BMX for 12 years and I didn't have a clue about how to catch a big bait fish. But I mean, I don't know, man. I can't answer it. I don't know.
You mind if I weigh in on what I think it is?
Yeah, please.
So I've been fortunate enough to, fish with guys like Shaw, Grigsby, KVD. I've got to meet the best of the best. And one thing that all three of you have in common is a confident, positive demeanor. And granted, I'm not saying that there's not great fishermen out there that are dickheads, because there definitely is.
Absolutely.
Name a few of those.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's Paul's. I think it's that confident, not shaken demeanor. I've heard dudes fire off on Paul, and Paul's like, no big deal. I've seen dudes roll up in front of Paul where I would be like, son of a bitch, but Paul's like, no big deal, And I've seen that with Josh too. Matt, we've never even got to fish together. Come to think of it, bro.
Yet, no.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So what is it about you, Matt, that separates you? I watched everything. Even last night I watched like 5-year-old school videos, and there's something, even when like you're saying stuff I already know, I don't want to look away. There's something very captivating going on. What's in your mind when you're out there?
I guess, well, for me, I get a little deeper into it. I guess obviously when I got into it, it was really good. And I'd seen so many different scenarios on getting bit, just had great days. So obviously that parlays into confidence. And then, and I've seen myself, I mean, it is confidence, but I'm using memories. I get to have a ton of memories to relax on. So sometimes, like Casitas threw me off a little while. And even though the bite got bad, it still threw me off, and I started losing confidence. And I was talking to Paul. I'm like, this lake's done. And, he's rubbing it in what he's doing with me every day at his lake. And I think, honestly, tell Paul this, is I kept bitching to Paul about it. And I'm like, you know what, Paul, you need to come over here and fish it. And because you'll just jump into it like it was the old casitas.
Right.
And it was listening to myself say that. I was like, well, what? I can do that too. Like listening to myself say that. So I remember literally pulling up to the lake, and it was early February, and I was with a friend, and we'd been fishing, we're fishing worms, and I had that phone call with Paul. Do you remember that one, Paul?
Yeah.
And I pulled up to the lake, and the lake sucks. Like a 6-pounder is a giant, and I just fell back. I was like, I'm going to do this today. I'm just going to see what happens if you were to commit like we used to, knowing that before it was easy, knowing there were 10s, and you kind of put the rod in your hand, and there's like a switch for swim baits. Nothing else, like crankbaits or anything like that. It was just swim baits. I kind of flip a switch, and you take a deep breath, and kind of, you're in for the long haul, and it's kind of like this confident like thing. And we smashed them. We caught like 6 or 8 fish that day, and it changed my whole thing. We could see this again. And it was that I lost confidence. Now the lake was hurting, and they weren't 10s and 12s. They were 6, 7-pounders, which was a treat then. But it's hard to, I don't know if that light's better or not. Yeah, it's hard to fake it if you're not even when I'd had hundreds of fish in the past on that body of water, once you lose confidence, you're screwed.
That's the same way it is with me. I think, confidence is key. That's the confidence from doing it for so long and under so many different situations, whether it be in a tournament, fun fishing, having to get somebody bit. You can fall back on all of those every day you're out there, and kind of just, and it keeps you going, and it keeps you going with a lot of confidence, because all right, hey, in 2013, I was out here for 9 hours, and all of a sudden at 5 o'clock, I made that cast, and that one cast is going to make the day when you're throwing a swim bait. And so your mindset switches, you go into confidence mode. Now, to get that confidence, you almost just got to shut everything off, like Matt was saying, and go into it like, hey, I'm in it for the long haul. We're tying this on. This is what I'm bringing to the lake today. This is what I want to catch one on, and go to the lake with that attitude, rather than going to the lake with I want to catch one attitude. But confidence is key, and the only way to get that confidence is just to go keep doing it, and you can't
just keep doing it. Yeah, because I get taught stuff by a younger crowd too. I've been doing this a long, long time, and I'll give a kid kind of like a hint, and then he comes back and tells me what he did. You're like, wow, never ever thought of that. And this is 15 years later.
I heard back when I was watching your guys' old school video. What's that video again called that people should look up on YouTube? I know you guys posted it on YouTube.
Big Bait Posse.
Big Bait Posse, guys.
Big Bait Posse.
Yeah. Now, Paul, his brother, Byron was in that. Matt, the Arizona guy.
Justin Kerr.
Justin Kerr. They're all in that now. These are some of the OGs in it. And the interesting part about this is I heard all of them refer to their team. It's their team. And it's because these guys can be on for a couple of days. These guys can be on for a couple of days. And even Josh down here, I know Josh has got some other guide buddies that he works with on the lake. They share information. They help each other out. And it's interesting because I think a big part of this confidence and being a respectful person translates into success in bass fishing, even if you're rolling solo. And I heard you guys talking about playing off one another and dialing in how that bite's changing, where those fish are positioning, and sharing that. And you guys were working as such a cohesive unit. I think that's something I've overlooked a lot myself. And I started working with my other buddies, Matt Frazier, Josh Parris, Travis Averill, a few of these guys locally here. And I tried to kind of like storyboard kind of how my day went just in a text or something. And I kind of get that feedback there. And I don't think it's necessarily that we're fishing other people's bites. I think it's that it's almost like a support system when we're building each other's confidence.
You're installing confidence.
That's all it is.
I remember days when the Hud bite's good, and I ran out there and ran my 5 or 6 favorite spots, and was like, Sean, they're not biting. And he's like, well, they bit on my 2 favorite spots. And I go, oh, okay. Well, all of a sudden, it's not the weather and it's not the day. It's the spot. Yeah, so it gives you, I'm gonna. Oh, look, there's 6 points here. I never fish. I did that recently. That was really fun. I love doing that. We just kind of stop and go, all right, I got 6 points here. that's going to take me about 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And you just put the rod in there, whatever bait it is. Generally for me, it's a HUD when I'm slowing down, and just kind of drag over them or fly over them. But it's fun doing that too, where you kind of, the pressure isn't on to catch it on that spot. And then you're going to race all the way down the lake to your next spot. If those 2 or 3 don't come out, you start spinning. It's nice to go down a bank again.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk about that, and I'm not going to blow up any Josh's spots down here, but Josh and I will make like these 1-hour runs for 3 casts.
Uh-huh.
I know
Yep.
it's that spot on the spot.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't catch them elsewhere. It's not that. It's that we have so much confidence in our cast, in our experience. And it's something you have to hang on to. Listen to all these guys. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And another thing too is, I go to a new lake. Someone's like, oh yeah, they're eating HUDs. You go to the new lake, and I couldn't get truly into it unless I knew what I was fishing. So if I was, here's the point, it's like that, and I can't settle in knowing I'm not fishing the sweet spot sometimes. That'll screw me up. You're like, but I don't know this point. I kind of want to go graph it and then maybe drop a waypoint where I think they might be if they're not graphing. If fish don't graph a lot, and then leave and come back. But I hate pulling up to a new lake or a new terrain when I got to fish a 12 HUD. Top water or other stuff is different. But if you're fishing a deep HUD, it does screw with my head. I'm like, no, this ain't the right corner here, and you start speeding. You fish too fast.
Yeah,
that's another.
And that goes back to confidence on the spot, and that's all everything is. Is confidence.
Yeah,
I think any point. Go ahead.
I watch Paul. Okay, so we all know Henderson at Clear Lake. Okay, this is no secret. I'll just say it. But I have watched Paul go right in the middle of a fleet, man. That place gets so damn busy. And this guy just starts kicking ass right in the middle of all these damn boats around us. And I want to die laughing, like out loud. Just like you see everybody fishing live bait. Like there's guys with live bait all around there. And Paul's throwing a giant hunk of plastic and jacking them in the middle of a crowd, man.
Yep, and that's just spot on the spot. I'm pretty sure I know every rock on certain parts of Henderson, and I definitely know every single rock and line snag and rope and anchor that there could possibly be around Shag Rock somewhere. And that's just confidence. I know which rocks they like to sit on. I know which side they like to sit on at what time of day. And that just all boils down to confidence in me making the repeated cast with 100 different lures to give you that confidence to know exactly what's down there without putting a camera down there and being able to see it itself. And it's pure confidence, and it's pure just pull up, throw around, learn as much as you can about that spot, and so that when you come back the next time, you eliminate all the BS, because you don't want to deal with BS when you're playing a swim bait game, especially. You play with BS all day.
I know people watching this right now are listening, and they're thinking, I'll tell you what, I could put you on the deck of my boat. I can drive you to the exact same cast that Paul's going to make, and I can take Paul's setup out of his damn boat that he just caught a fish with him, put it in your hand. I can do the same thing with Josh. I can do the same thing with Matt. Okay, I could do this, and you will not catch their fish. And this is the most ironic thing I hear. Guys get mad at me all the time. You're blowing up my spot. None of these guys on here give a flying F about someone blowing up their spot, because they are so confident in their skill set. These bass smell confidence. I'm telling you guys, there's something very real about positive energy.
There is.
And confidence. Something very, very real. And this cannot be overlooked. And the reason why we're talking about this, and you'll be like, oh, I want the details. I want the details. You need to truly absorb what they're saying right here. I don't need every little line detail. Paul can tell you he's throwing it on 25-pound fluorocarbon, 65-pound braid backer. Matt can tell you the exact taper of his rod and everything. And yes, that is critical. But when it comes to those bass pulling the trigger, I want you guys to understand that there's a much higher level going on here. This is why I brought these individuals on here. I can have I can tell you what to go rig up a HUD on right now. I can tell you what to put a pulse tail on. I can tell you what to throw a glide bait on. Sure. But what you can get from this crew right here is so far beyond that to help your game. You really need to just try to relax and absorb it.
Yeah.
And it comes down, not only confidence, but it comes down to, not a lot of guys will admit it, but it comes down to a lot of luck. You know, we can't control what mood the fish are in. We can't control where they're sitting, why they're sitting there. You know, we're guessing. I say we're guessing 70% of the time we're out there. Not necessarily, but we're guessing as to why the fish bit. And my theory is if you know why a fish bites, it's a lot easier to go back and catch that fish and all of his buddies maybe in that zone if you can figure out why he bit.
Mm-hmm.
Was he sitting there? Is that a feeding spot? Was he chasing a ball of bait in that zone, turned off the bait, come to get yours? You know, what was the reason that fish is there? And I think a lot of guys that just go out and huck swim baits from shore and go about it that way, they're not taking in the detail of what's down there, why that fish may have been there, what were your surroundings like that day, was it cloudy, was it windy, was it not, so that when it happens again you can go back and say, hey, last time it was like this, I caught one on that bank right there. And you know, and that's how the guys need to start thinking to really take it to the next level, because anybody can just chuck and wind and get lucky, but if you know why you're getting bit, where you're getting bit, you're already stepping it up to that next level.
So it's evaluating your luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Luck favors the prepared. Luck favors the prepared. Straight up. It really does.
Yep.
I like that. That's why I'm not very lucky. So this is interesting. So we all talk about baits, and you guys are going to know these common baits, and you're going to hear these names. So I'm going to bring up a new subject. Josh, I want you to start us off. If you can only have one swim bait for the next year, okay? We're talking 2021 because 2020 is done. 2021.
Don't say that, please.
Taking everything away you got. You could only have one swim bait. What is it?
Do you want like an exact bait or just a type of bait?
I want an exact bait. Don't cut us short, homie.
Dude, I want color, hook size.
Yeah, I want it all.
No, I'm just kidding.
Let's see. It's for where I fish mostly. I'm probably gonna go with a glide bait, and if I really had to pick like one over all of them, it would probably be like the 7 1/4. Is that right? Shine Glide, or like the Waver 168, and that's just because of where I fish. Now, it's one of those things to where all year long I can trigger fish on those. I mean, I can trigger fish on HUDs, I guess, too, all year long too, but it becomes much more specific on where and what I'm doing. Like, you know, I got little sweet spots in the middle of summer I can go catch a HUD fish, but I could run most of the lake during the summer with a glide bait and still be productive. You know, and trigger fish versus, I feel like with like the soft body baits, it's just a little bit more nichey, if you will, versus the glide baits. Just kind of, I feel more comfortable throwing that all year, winter, summer, fall, spring, than, you know, a soft boot tail or vortex tail style bait. You know, that would be mine.
All right, Matt, same question. One
You
bait.
know, my knee jerk is always to say a HUD, but if you're going to say for the whole year, I mean, like a HUD 12, right, a fall 12 would be my most favorite HUD swim bait to fish. But after March, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends. But then, you know, but then the swim bait fishing kind of sucks after that anyway. Like, I don't know, not sucks, but you got to post spawn top water. The glide bait, I mean, Josh's answer was really good. If I had to say, you know, I got to catch a fish for the next 12 months, you know, I think the HUD would accelerate far over the glide bait until March, and then I'd be in a losing battle. I'd be kind of bummed to have one bait. I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to have one. I guess, like I said, Josh, you can catch a glide bait fish in the winter, but I can't catch a HUD 12 fish very, very well in the summer. So I guess a glide bait would have to be it, but not not my
All right,
cup of
Paul.
tea.
Do you have any thoughts on that right there? Because I know you agree with these gentlemen, but build on it if you can. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts, it depends what lake you're at. It really does, just like Matt, his bite starts to suck after March, and I'm sure Josh's Hud bite starts to suck probably after May. They're spawning a little bit later up here. When we say starting to suck, we're talking it's tough to get a bite. We're not saying it's impossible.
Yeah, the grass screws it all up, so yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's tough to fish it. The grass starts growing in a lot of lakes, and it just gets tough to fish the stuff. So, for me at this lake, I got a really good Hud bite from November for about 6 weeks till the middle of December, and then once that water gets cold, it starts to suck where you're fighting for a bite a day. But then again, at February and March, she comes firing back, and they start eating that Huddy again. But then the rest of the summer, it's really tough to get a cast anywhere on Clear Lake because there's something growing on the bottom everywhere you go, whether it's algae, grass, ropes, crates, bodies, shopping carts. I mean, we have it all at Clear Lake. So that it probably isn't the right bait to throw year round. It wouldn't be my favorite. My favorite bait to throw, and me and Matt just recently got on this, is a weedless paddle tail bait, a 7-inch one. I've been throwing a 6.8 and a 7.8 weedless paddle tail, and I learned this winter that you don't have to go as slow as I thought you did.
No, that was a trip.
Those wintertime swimbait fish.
Really?
Oh man, we were beating rocks in the middle of December, full speed with I'm talking, I had a 3/4 to a 1 ounce weight on a 10-aught beast hook on a 6.8 Handcraft Bariki shad or a Kitech, whatever you want to use, any weedless paddle tail, and we had to keep it on the bottom, and you beat the bottom up just like you would a deep diving crankbait. Just beat. You almost couldn't keep up with it.
You'd be winding. Yeah, you'd be winding across the bottom. It'd just be silt, and then all of a sudden you would feel the rock. And you would have to. We tried this too, because we were fishing for hours on the same spot, and you would start to fish it like a Hud. You would lift it over the rock like we just did with a Hud for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
But instead you'd hit. I think Paul figured it out. I think it was, or at least for me, I figured it out because I hit rock and I snagged a bait, and we're really low on these hooks. So I hit that same rock on the next cast and panicked. I'm like, oh, here we go, and I kind of trucked it. Lifted the rod up a little bit and trucked it. It's going, and it was actually on video. And I'm like, dude, I was hitting rocks really hard. So you think you can go back out and do it, but a swim bait was always going to kind of start to rise. So we were rolling it really slow. I was fine. I'm keeping the line low, the bait low. And as soon as I'd find that rocky area, you've got to truck it. It was
right.
And it was like 10 in a row.
Yeah, it was done. It was ridiculous. And once he kind of figured it out, hey man, this is what you got to do to get the right contact with the bottom. Now, a lot of people don't think about this. They think, hey, I set my swim bait out. I started winding it back slow. I couldn't keep it on the bottom, so I just wound it in and threw it back out again. What you got to do if you're fishing fluorocarbon, you can even do it with mono. It's just a lot easier with fluorocarbon. Is chuck that bait out there, let it hit the bottom, and then let your line settle. Fluorocarbon sinks. Let your line settle, let it get down in the water column, let it get all the way down to the bottom if you can, and you're beating up bottom for a lot longer than you would be if you just let your bait hit the bottom and start winding it back, because your line angle is everything. And the way Matt figured out, hey, dude, we got to leave it in there to beat up the rocks. You don't want it a foot above the rocks. You want it, deflecting off the rocks. When he figured that out, I mean, it opened up a whole new can of worms for me this winter, and we absolutely went to town. And not just here, but Berryessa, Shasta. I mean, it was an eye opener for us, and so that would probably be my favorite bait, would be a weedless bait, because you can fish it really slow, knowing your line angles, and you can fish it really fast down deep if you watch your line angles. Give
us the exact bait, Paul.
It's a 6.8 Handcraft Bariki shad. It's called the Bariki shad. It was designed in Japan. It's got a really unique wobble compared to other 6.8 baits. The Kitech's got a really wide kick, puts off a really hard up. This bait does a rolling action more like a Bass Tricks does. The Bass Tricks doesn't have a wide kick, but it does a lot of roll in the bait, and I think that's got a lot to do with it. And it's just something they haven't seen. Anything new is always going to get bit a little bit better, especially on a pressured situation lake. So that's my favorite year-round bait. I can fish it in grass, I can fish it in trees, rocks, you name it.
All right. So now Paul just said it. Okay, something new. Now I've heard this. And I somewhat believe it, and then sometimes I don't believe it because I do seminars on big tanks full of fish, and I cast for 30 minutes, and then they see the same bait for 30 minutes, then one dummy eats it. Now, I call that the fish tank theory. And I've seen guys in tournaments sit on one spot and keep casting, and they catch a tank.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Now, with that, seeing something new, this kind of lands into this question. And Josh, I'll have you start with this question. And when I say expensive, I mean $100+ to $700+. Are very expensive swim baits worth the money?
Yes, in the hands of the right person. I'd say if you're just, like the guy just buying, a depth 250 to go throw for his first time, I say no, it's not worth it. But for an experienced guy, done glide baits quite a bit, kind of working up, yeah, there are things with those more expensive baits, and not all of them. Some of them, so like some of the garage builds, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why they're that much. Guys are building them out of their garage, but they're not tuned to some of like the JDM stuff, some of that stuff that's really expensive. That stuff is tuned. It has internal workings like that make the bait better. Even with some of the soft baits, same thing. I think, they put the time in to make it kick the right speed, to keel out right, to do everything right. Are they 100% necessary? Not always, but in certain scenarios, I have seen where that better, more quality bait that, swims better, if you will produce. But I mean, I guess it kind of goes both ways. Because
let me ask you this, Josh. I really like that answer. I feel the exact same way. What is the most expensive swim bait you own?
That I own?
Yeah.
Probably like $400, but it sits on a shelf in my garage and I don't ever throw it. Honestly, my day in, day out baits are $100 and under. I mean, that literally, I don't throw bait that's over $100. Maybe the depths 250 would be in there, but I mean, my day in, day out, every day I'm fishing baits are $100 and under.
Now, how about for you, Paul? Same question. Are very expensive swim baits worth the money, or custom-made swim baits worth the money?
They're worth it if the fish tell you they're worth it. And I say that because when I moved here, I'll give 7 years ago, quick example. I thought I knew how to fish a glide bait. I thought I had the glide bait that they wanted on this lake. A guy named Bill Egan comes up and comes fishing with me before one of the one bass tournaments, the one bass TOC they were having here. Took him out for a day, and he says, "Hey, I caught 2 off the dock I'm staying at on this new depths 250." It was right when it came out. And I was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Well, bring it out. You can throw it. Throw it. I'll go practice for the tournament. The tournament's in a week or so. And we'll just go have a good time. And open my eyes. Wow, he got bit on a glide bait. So I brought out my Gangcraft 230. Took that Gangcraft 230 out, pulled up to a school of fish. They looked at my Gangcraft. They followed it in for 2 casts, but I never got a bite. The second his depths 250 hit the water, they were fighting for it like they'd never seen it before. And that kind of opened my eyes as yes, in that situation, it was the bait. And yes, he's happy he paid $250 for it at that point. Until you know that, it's not necessary. There's a fish is a fish, is a bass is a bass. Now, if you're fishing a pond, a lake that doesn't see a lot of pressure, it's not going to matter near as much as you're fishing a popular lake like Maloney's or the Delta or Lake Casitas or Clear Lake. Those fish have seen a lot of lures. They're a lot smarter than your average fish that lives in a pond. So that's where I would separate the differential. If you're fishing a pressured lake, yeah, the more expensive baits that they see less are most likely going to get bit better. Not in all cases, but most likely. In a pond or whatever, I think you throw an S-Waver 168 and your homemade anything and get those fish to react. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay, and what's the most expensive bait you own that you still use from time to time?
A depths. I definitely throw my depths 250 a lot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say I only fish Huddlestons and I only fish Gangcrafts. It's not true. I fish whatever the fish tell me to fish. Just because you don't see it in any of my videos, it's because I don't advertise it in the pictures. I fish a lot of different I fish a lot of different baits. The most expensive is a depths for sure.
Now, I'll tell you guys something. Even though Paul's saying depths, his Gan crafts are always tight on, and I have seen this guy destroy them. And Paul's big affiliated with Gan Craft. He's been with them for a while now. Good people over there. So if you're watching right now, check out Paul's custom color too. It's a sick color. Do you have more than one color?
No, we just have the one color out right now. We're going to do another color come wintertime of this coming next year in 2021. So
if you guys get the option, go buy Paul's color. Is that on Tackle Warehouse?
Tackle Warehouse has them, and JapanImportTackle.com is a great place to find all JDM product. Anything JDM, Japan Import Tackle. He's the man over there.
If you're going to Clear Lake, understand that's most likely why that dude made that color. Just saying. Go beat up on some of the fish. But help this brother out. Incredible baits. Now, Matt, from what you heard from these guys over here, do you have any difference of opinions or anything you'd like to add to that?
No, it's the same things. I've always been very simple, and I've called baits tools. You've got your flathead, your Phillips for those heads. So I try to really keep my stuff simple. I'm always open to new baits because it's got me where I am. But I have my depths and I have my Gan crafts, my 230s, and that's I got one depths and I have like six Gan crafts in varied colors because it's fun. Then after that, I have Gary Collins, another local up at the lake. He made me a bait, and it's enormous. It's huge, and it's a really big girth, everything. And I've actually never landed a fish on it, but I bring it to every tournament, and it's the best locating tool I've ever had in my life. And I bring it to every pre-fish, and we'll pull up herds, and then tournament day, it's not on my boat. I've got what I needed out of it. But to say expensive baits, I guess Gan crafts and depths are expensive. You really only need one. It's an investment, but it's not much more than a rod. Right. And like I said, I keep it fairly simple. The Gan crafts, you have to fish those. You've got to fish those more than, like, let's say, depths where you can just kind of wind it in and it's a little easier. You can't overfish a depths like you can a Gan craft.
Right.
But my team partner, Brian Evans, he comes up. He's one of those guys that brings new baits to the. He just sits on Tackle Warehouse all week and finds this new stuff, and he'll show up with baits that I look at this glide bait, and I'm like, you've got 50 glide baits that are that size, but I have seen it where he's lit them up, and you're like, what bait is that again? Where'd you get it?
Yep.
And they're nothing brand. They're like. He's got one bait that he picked it up just because it had a treble hook in the tail. It's a glide bait. And we were getting so many fish just like touching the tails. So he bought this bait, and then they weren't just touching the tail of that bait. They were choking it. I'm like,
So you guys just heard Matt say, okay, here's the Gan craft. That's the what? Was that the 178? Is that what that is, Paul?
Yeah, the 178, yeah.
Okay, so if you look at that, now Matt was talking about having to fish it. Now, this is often referred to as a slow glide versus like a hard glide, where Matt's talking about just a steady retrieve where, that bait's going to go side to side, where you have to fish that Gan craft, okay?
well, you don't have to, but if you do, it's a bait that will reward the guys that do.
Yeah, elaborate on have to fish, because a lot of people, they see a glide bait that doesn't on its own go very far. They don't realize the benefit here. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the benefit, Matt?
Yeah, well, it's hyper balanced, those baits. They're very neutral, and Paul probably have even a better answer than me after this. He was the one that turned me onto them. But you can fish them. And get them to really coast. They coast really well. Now, if you were to wind it in really fast, it'll just start to kind of roll over. So there's a certain cadence that you kind of got to keep it at. Like I call it like the pull up time, where I'm kind of doing a slow cadence. You can you just do a regular cadence. It's still going to swim, but with that bait, you can burp it and throw slack into it and get it to do a lot more than other baits. It'll shoot off. You can get it to shoot off 4 feet. Off to the side on a good glide, and it's all about kind of learning. Paul taught me this: is picking up. You got to get the momentum picked up. So it's kind of like you got to kind of go 1, 2, 3. You're picking it up, so it's starting to get some movement. And then that last one, you're killing the bait, and you got to feed it too, because if it doesn't have line, it can't go anywhere. And that thing will just, you picked it up and it'll sail off. And so you don't even have to see that anymore. You just kind of, there we go. I'm going to one up, and you do that, and boom, right on the end of a glide.
Well, I'll know what I'll be doing shortly here.
Sorry, Paul.
Go buy some of those Jordan claws, guys. Those are pretty dope. Okay. All right. So I think I got everybody on that. Thank you for elaborating on that, Matt. Now, one thing that I've seen, and I find myself doing this and having success doing this, is where, like, let's talk about pre-spawn and post-spawn. Sometimes we're talking about trees that are in a cove, okay? We're talking about trees that are coming right down the center of a cove. We know they're going to spawn in the back of that cove or up against those banks, and we got some trees in the middle. So we know in the pre-spawn and post-spawn, they're probably suspended in those trees. Now, I've thrown glide baits through the tops of those trees and paralleled those trees, and I've also thrown boot tail style baits like pulse tails and HUDs, and have had success. Now, in that situation for you guys, what would make you lean towards a boot tail swim bait versus a glide bait, or vice versa? Paul, can you start us off there?
Yeah. If I felt at the time, I pulled into this cove and it was, November, the water temperature would base a lot for me, is how I would first approach that scenario. Here in Northern California, I can say California in general, 50 to 60 degree water temperatures, maybe 50 to 57. The trout like to swim around in the upper third of the water column is what I would like to say, the upper 30 feet of the water column. So at that point, I would probably be fishing suspending baits, throwing a glide bait, trying to throw right a fall 5 HUD and get close to the top of the tree, but not necessarily hit it. That's because the trout are up, so they're suspending in the mornings right before dark. They're swimming around, chasing bugs, chasing shad, whatever they're doing. That's the habit of a trout, and so you kind of got to mimic that. Where they're swimming is where the bass are going to set up. I would then change my approach in the summertime. If there was no grass on the bank and we still had trees down the middle of a cove, knowing those bass had to pull out to go somewhere, and it was deep enough down that cove to still hold them, I would then go ahead and throw that weedless bait in there. I would sink it to the bottom. And
so are you talking like upper 60s to mid 60s? Now you're going back to that boot tail post-spawn?
Exactly. So once they're done spawning, once we're into that 62 plus, I say 62 to 75 at this point, you got a really wide range of that post-spawn. Is when I would target inside of the trees more and try to get whatever I was fishing inside the trees and to the bottom, and not necessarily swimming through, because you can't swim through a tree straight. So my technique through a tree is really, really slow up, come off a branch, click it open, let it go really, really slow down. And that's kind of how I fish bushes and trees with a weedless bait. I'm not worried about if the bait's swimming. I'm trying to leave it in the tree as long as I can and have it do something. I'm not looking forward to beat up and come through and pop off the branch, but I want to leave it in there in those warmer temperatures a lot longer. And so water temperature would base a lot on how I fish that sort of area.
So you're talking about that soft plastic weedless swim bait that you talked about earlier, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Anything 5 inches to 7 inches.
Post spawn.
Yep. Once those fish spawn, and that would be more my technique. Just because the bait that they're feeding on is now no longer up in the water column as much. Once that water temperature gets up in the 60s, those trout tend to get down that 40, 50, 60-foot zone. At least a lot of lakes that I've been to. I'm sure it's not happening everywhere, but that's kind of my rule of thumb. Now,
Josh, I see you do this on bridge columns a lot. A lot of the lakes Josh fishes, he has bridge columns that are 300-400 feet. A lot of different bridges, a lot of rock walls. I see Josh fish rock walls that it drops down 80, 90 feet deep. So I know this vertical, this upper part of the water column, mid and deeper part is a big daily game for you. And I've seen you return to these spots periodically every 2 hours. How do you go about that? The same question I have for Paul is, for instead of a tree, let's say a bridge piling, a bridge column, or a deep vertical wall.
So, pretty much I kind of treat all vertical structure the same. I look at it the same anyways. There's levels to it. And typically pre-spawn, I have a very specific bait that I like to run over it, and it's typically like a vortex style bait, like a Huddleston, Batesmith mag, whatever. But Pole's tail. But I like to reduce the weight in them to where, like with a Huddleston, the easiest way to go about it is by a 0, put a nail weight into it to where, I mean, that thing, you have to wait 10 seconds before you even start reeling, because that thing, even if you're just crawling that thing just past that tree and pre-spawn, that's one of my just deadly techniques is, something about that thing going so slow past the tree, past the bridge, whatever, it just gets it going. And then kind of going into the other portion, I mean, with depending on the depth, typically I start breaking it into chunks. So like with the Huddleston, we'll just stick with that one, like on a bridge column, Home Lake, Maloney's, I mean, some of those bridge columns are 280 foot deep, to where I'll start HUD 0 or a glide, right down, coming right down the side, and I cover that 5 to 10 foot range pretty much. And then my very next cast, I'll do an ROF 12 or a weighted glide and count it down, get it down to that 20, 30 foot and down into even the summer. I mean, on those sorts of things. And I've done it on trees too, because we have big pine trees that are in the river channel that are 100 foot. They're 100 foot tall, from, the bottom up to the surface. To where, I mean, I've caught fish down 70, 80 foot on swim baits. Like I have one, it's what is it? Storm. I think it's a Storm something. It's like a 2-inch, 7-inch bait, or a 2-ounce, 7-inch bait. Thing weighs a ton, but it's the only bait that I can get to go down that deep and actually track at that depth. And I mean, I feel like those are fish that are down there hunting coconut on the trees, pilings, to where, like I said, I tend to break it up in sections, and then kind of right into the same things. Water temperature will play a big portion. Is pre-spawn, I tend to go with soft baits a little bit more, and more so the vortex style baits and then post-spawn, I just feel like I can get fish to react a little bit more with the glide baits. Is, typically I just find I get a lot more followers post-spawn on the soft baits as they follow it, but they never really had that trigger moment versus with the glide bait, I have a lot more success getting fish to convert as they get up on it, and I start talking them into eating that bait, and then finally I get them to actually commit, swing on it, and get them to go. So
right on.
Yeah, my take on it anyhow.
So Matt, hearing this, I've seen your eyebrows raise a couple times. What are your thoughts, man?
No, that's right on. I mean, same. I mean, I've always said post-spawn is for glide baits and topwater. Like when I say punkers and rovers, those are the things I fish. Yeah. That's post-spawn. They have to be. They're all agitated. They need that trigger. Pre-spawn, they don't.
So now I know you will throw a topwater the pre-spawn. I know it. Yeah. Where does that scenario land? Why would you throw a big topwater in the pre-spawn? What's the telltale? Because we all know, the bottom bump, a HUD, a bait smith, a pulse tail, something to get down there. But what's that scenario that would make you throw something like a punker?
I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't throw a punker in pre-spawn.
Really?
No, I would just. Ignorant me. I mean, I get proved wrong all the time. But I wouldn't throw it. But I would throw like my first swim bait fish, and I probably accounted for 50 of hundreds of swim bait fish were all on the old Castaic wood, which I threw December, November, December, and January, and that was because all the trout, it was heavily planted, and those trout are just kind of cruising around on the surface. They sit there and sunbathe or something. I don't know what they're doing, but so the bass are eating those in the winter on a topwater, but it's definitely it's more of a dead stick, and twitch kind of thing, and then pre-spawn for me, or winter, and it's not even pre-spawn. I don't even think about it yet. That November, December.
Guys, Paul and Josh, you guys ever throw topwater pre-spawn?
For me, it depends on what they're eating and how clear the water is. I've had months at Clear Lake. I've had Februaries at Clear Lake where the water was 46 degrees, but it was crystal clear. The hits started running into the creeks, which made the bass bait tells a lot on what a bass is going to do. If the bait's swimming in the upper part of the column, the bass are going to be there too. I don't care if the water temperature is 45 degrees or 85 degrees. If that's where the bait is, that's where the fish are going to be usually. So I've had some winter times here. I'd call it pre-spawn in February, where we've had low water years, warm years, where it's crystal clear, and we're catching them on a slammer.
Warm.
Yeah, you know, it's warmer than it usually is, and those years are usually the years that I would throw top water in the pre-spawn. But if you got dirty, cold conditions, I'm not going to tie top water on. I gotta see them blowing trout out of the water. I gotta see them chasing hitch. Something's got to give me the clue that they're looking up for me to even think.
I got to admit, if I seen a bass blowing a trout, I'd probably just
it's cool. You should watch it.
I'm not into the whole watching.
Oh, damn.
Back in the day,
I mean,
Lower
I'd say the
Lake.
same thing right there. I mean,
Oh, I was gonna say back in the day at Lower Lake, before there was boats allowed on there, and they used to plant trout every single week, and no one fished swimbaits. And we would go there, and this was the beginning of my whole swimbait time. And you would sit there and walk the shoreline, and you would, and this isn't zero exaggeration. We talked about recently. You would watch 20 or 30 trout getting busted every morning. Like it was, I mean, there's no boats allowed in this place, and no one fished it. Bill was one of Bill, and he had two buddies he fished with. Those are the guys that kind of really broke that lake. What were those guys' names? What's that? Yeah, Bill Siementhal and Gillespie. Bill, I think it's Bill Gillespie, and there's one other guy that Gillespie fished with, and those guys.
Probably another Bill.
Who was it? I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
they, I got you, Bill. Yeah. Those guys were, they were the first ones on that lake, and really killed it. But it was untouched. It was untouched back then. In like animal kingdom, I would watch hordes of trout getting pushed down the bank. I mean, backs out of the water, touching the water. And there would be 8 or 12 of these things of 10 to 15 pounders, and they would just have them walled off that they can't get away. And you just sit there, freeze. You're like, what are they doing? And they would sit there, and they would just travel this ball of trout right down the bank. And then one of them would take a turn, and as soon as one go in, the rest of them would tighten the bunch up. And they would literally make this wall, and there's trout flipping. I mean, they're flipping on my shoes, and I'm kicking them back in and watching them getting mowed. You're like, oh my God.
Damn, that's some trials of life shit.
It was nature at its rawest, and that was so long ago. But and it went downhill fast once they put boats on there and whatever. But
Marty Stauffer in the background with his camera.
But it was really cool back then, especially that place.
The only time I ever seen that happen was at a little lake we have here in Northern California called Amador.
Mm-hmm.
They used to plant these crossbred trout. They're called Donaldson trout. Professor Lauren Donaldson crossbred wild steelhead with rainbow trout, and created this strain that liked to live shallow. And every time the truck would dump them in by all these trees, these flooded trees, and you would see all these dudes over there casting for trout, and then you would just see a trout fly up on the bank, boom, boom, and then boom in the water, boom.
Yep.
I bet you that's still going down. Josh, we maybe need to slip over there before we air this.
yeah. I'll be there tomorrow.
Yep,
Oh.
exactly. All right, so Matt, we talked a little bit about like a boot tail versus a glide. Now we know the glide seems to outperform the boot tail in a little bit of warmer water, but is there any other scenarios for a glide or a hard bait glide versus like a boot tail swim bait that you think people aren't overly aware of?
Well, I mean, midsummer, I guess. I mean, I see all the damage Butch does with his.
And that's midsummer?
Well, he does it all through summer, yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
there's obviously times, there's times, but yeah, but that's on Lower Lake. It's a special place too. For his times. But yeah, I don't fish enough lately in the summer anymore. I've got other fishies I'm chasing during the summer months. But
one thing here. Continue with that. I'm gonna grab something.
But yeah, I don't know if I don't know what you're looking for, and you're saying other things people are missing. Obviously, there's times where there was a time I won't mention the lake on this one, but three of us, three boats, two guys in each boat went up to fish a lake, and we camped for 2 days, and it was going to be a swim bait trip. 3 boats, and we were going to mesh them. We knew what we were doing. And the first day, all of us blanked, totally blanked. And nothing. It was an early spawn, and there were no beds left. Though it was just it got cold. And the second day, at probably 10, 11 o'clock, I'm throwing a depths for that. I've gone through more swim baits I've ever done in my life. And I had a depths. I tied on a depths, and I was getting I just spent 2 days this exciting trip, never got a bump. And I was winding it, and I think I got stuck on a branch, and I ripped it off, and I was in a real bad mood now. I'm like, as I'm burning it in, this fish just flew out of nowhere and ate it. I'm like, oh, like a 6-pounder. I'm like, all right, I got one, you bastard. And then I'm going down the bank, and probably 10 minutes into it, you start to lose your confidence now. You're like, your shake goes away, and you're like, oh, man. And I'm like, well, I was burning that thing. Would that make a difference? And I just, fast I could, throw a sweep in there, and got stopped. And zero exaggeration, I probably caught 10 fish in the next 25 minutes.
And that was on a boot tail, huh?
This is on a depths 250.
Oh, on a 250 burning?
On a 250 burning, and then throwing a sweep into it. And I actually had my girlfriend in the boat at that time, and I was, after I caught those fish, I raced over and I found James, and I go, dude, I figured him out. And he's like, oh, okay. And I go, you throw the depths, and he's got a depths in his hand. And I go to that point and throw the depths on that point. And he goes, I'm not in the mood right now. He's in a bad mood too. And then Shanti my girlfriend opens the live well, and she's like, look at these, and she's pulling these 10-pounders out. And he's like, what? And I go, throw it. He's like, I've been fishing this thing all morning. And I go, wind it as fast as you can. And I said, in these next 5 points, you're going to get one. And literally, he throws it over there, and he's looking at me funny. I go, faster. And he gets one. And we fished that lake for 2 days. And we called the other guy, the third guy, depths to full speed. And the 3 of us had the best ending of that trip ever.
Damn. Always away.
Yeah, and it's always a pretty small lake. We covered that lake 10 times over in 2 days, and that was cool. We threw depths left and right. They had to have it they had to have it really, really fast.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. One of the swim baits I completely discredited a whole category of swim baits until I said, well, I'll just try it anyways, and I left one tied on. Multi-segmented swim baits. I hate them. I used to think they're just flat out generic until I got to real low water clarity, like a foot and less of visibility. I was throwing one of these off my dock 4 years ago.
It's like a flex bait, right?
Is that a Reebok?
Yeah.
Is that a Reebok or not?
This is made by Fila.
Okay. Okay.
This is one of those DWA baits. I have no affiliation with them anymore. All my partners left that company. I left them years ago. But there's something about the bigger hunk of meat with multi-segment. It's almost working like a damn rattle trap. But my caliber bites were huge. And this was in July. I had 25 fish over 5 pounds on these damn things in 3 different lakes, including the Delta.
Wow. That's exciting to hear that stuff, though.
Yeah, and I was burning this damn thing, just like you said. First 5 times I tried it, I'm like, these are crap. I used to always think they were crap. There's so many junky ones built. It's hard to find quality multi-segmented baits, but it's a fun way to do it. Anywhere you think you would throw like a lipless crankbait, get a quality made multi-segmented swim bait, and you will just get much bigger bites on average. I got 4 over 8 on that sucker from June to September.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I was actually pretty shocked that damn thing works. I wasn't even going to bring that up. They're not even affiliated with me, but
Right.
you know, everybody knows that swim baits lose their
I love
luster.
hearing those little stories. I'm like, ooh, I want to try that now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it opens eyes.
I was painting my freaking house and going out to my dock like, oh, I just need a breather. I'm firing that out there and sticking them from my dock. And that's when I was like, oh, there's something to this. And as soon as the water started to clear up, gone.
Yeah.
Throwing a rattle trap in clear water. You need that dirtiness, and those multi-segments made a hell of a lot of noise.
That's cool. It brings them to it.
Cool.
I think that profile still showed them it was something larger. Their lateral line is way more advanced, I think, than we've ever given credit to.
Absolutely.
I think not only do they know it's coming, they know the freaking size of the damn thing too.
Yeah. And they know if it's real or not. I don't know if you've ever dropped a swim bait next to a live trout in the water, but I mean, or if you've seen a bass sitting on a bed or sitting in a tree, and you throw your bait by it and it won't even turn its head to look at you and you get super frustrated. But the second it's swimming by that thing, he'll chase that thing 100 yards down the lake to go get it. They're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. But then again, at the same time, and me and Matt talk about this probably daily, they're a lot smarter than we think, but they're a lot stupider than we think as well.
I'm convinced, and I have to do it just to make a video. I keep saying it too much, so I got to go make a viral video. But I am convinced if I took my girlfriend's Converse, put some weight in it, and a hook on the shoelace, I could catch fish. I am convinced, and I could fish it if we could balance that thing. If I get the weight in a Converse tennis shoe, and I'll tie a straight triple hook to the shoelace.
Yeah,
I guarantee I could catch and I know I could go catch a fish on shag with that thing. I guarantee.
That's it. You present it right, you're going to get bit. I don't care.
Take me with you. Take me with you.
I've said it for too long, and I'm like, man, I just got to put my money where my mouth is and just go do it, because I know that as confident as I am, and so eager to say I told you that I would get one, because I'm so confident. So see, I told you.
And I've gotten in trouble. Like I've opened my mouth on like, say, commenting on somebody's posts of a video of a fish just absolutely grenading a swim bait. I mean, blowing this thing out of the water, 10-pounder out of the water, and I make a comment where I say, I'm pretty sure that thing would have ate your shoe if you threw it in there. And people get mad at me thinking I'm making fun of their post. I'm commenting how aggressive the fish are. And I really am, because I know it doesn't really matter what you throw in there sometimes. If the fish is in the mood to eat and he's in a looking mood, you can literally probably throw your shoe in there and he'll blow up on it. And that's just saying that that's an aggressive fish. You have some awesome fish at your lake. I'm not making fun of you personally and saying, oh, you're a boob, or you could have thrown a dinner plate in there and got bit. I'm just saying that really aggressive fish, and that's awesome. We have a ton of them here. I tell my clients every day, they catch a swim bait fish, probably could have thrown your shoe in there and caught that fish, especially when they get one first cast.
Yeah.
Hater.
I'm doing it this year. This year, I'll visit Paul this winter, and I'm bringing one.
Do it.
I'm coming.
I'm bringing a size 7 Converse.
Josh and I'll be right there throwing some Adidas.
Yep.
Dude, we should have a
The
shoe
stripes threw
tournament.
them off, the Adidas stripes. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd have the confidence with those Adidas stripes. I need that chevron.
$100 per boat, tennies only.
Pennies only. I'm down with it.
This. I said,
Yeah.
this. The 4 of us, 2 boats.
Yes,
The 4 of
I'm
us,
in.
2 boats. Adidas versus Converse.
I'll do it. I'll stick a nut and a bolt through the sole of a shoe with a friggin' steel leader so you can put a treble hook on there and have a chance.
Yep.
Oh, man, I'm down. I am down. All right,
Ours is as
gentlemen.
simple as I'll tie a treble on the shoelace, and I just got to get a weight to stick in the toe of the bait, and then I'll tie the tie off to the where you put your finger to get it on your heel, and I'll drag it that way. So I'll get guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
I'll get a few on it.
You heard it here.
I'll get a few on it.
Josh was catching bass on the Savage Gear squid.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Yeah,
The squid,
pretty
dude.
good.
That's it. If it wiggles,
awesome.
it works. If it wiggles, it
Yep.
works.
All right, gentlemen, we made it.
All right.
Bass fishing trivia time. Hope you guys stretched out.
I'm
About to get really, really real in here.
All right.
I'm not stretched, Nick. I'm not.
Yeah. I don't want you pulling a muscle. I'm just going to stretch to read these things.
We need a buzzer.
Now,
Yep.
I made this swim bait related. All right. Now, the last time I did this, there's always some sort of random delay, so I never know who really got it. So if you think you answered at the same time as the other person, just let me know. Josh was being all modest. He said he didn't get any, and he got 2, so I corrected his ass because he's always trying to be too nice. Okay, you guys ready for the first question? This is 8 questions.
All right.
All right. This 3-segmented swim bait, that's a bluegill, was released in 2015.
Oh man,
It's a slow float.
Does it suck?
I've got them on it.
like a Rago gill?
No, I mean, is it like one of those toxic sucks things?
No.
Okay.
It's a quality bait. It's a almost suspending, but a slow float.
No, I didn't mean that as his bait suck.
Oh,
I just
you're
meant
talking
that's
about
what
like
he
the
calls
bull
it.
shooter?
Almost.
Shellcracker? Shellcracker.
No.
It's not the bull shooter, huh? The depths.
Came out in 2015.
Oh, 2015.
Is it hard or soft?
It's hard.
Sure it is.
Of course, the girl laughs on that one.
Like
Good girl
medium,
laugh.
like round 2, medium, like a medium. I was like, yeah, it's hard.
It's not a depth bull shooter?
No, it's not a bull
there's
shooter.
so
It's a
many,
slow
though.
float.
The
There's like
Gantrel.
20 bluegill baits come out every year.
Oh, Gantrel. Yep.
Nailed it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1-0, Paul Bailey. You guys better get ready for this. Paul had no confidence coming into this. Now he's got all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Putting his tape on right now.
I got Google right here, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Listen, this swim bait designer's name rhymes with Jen Rumbleskin.
Ken Huddleston.
Oh! Matt say it too?
I think Josh
No,
got me on
I
it.
just laughed because I couldn't. It was funny,
Was
and I
that a
laughed,
tie?
and he called it.
Did you say it too, Josh?
Yeah, I said Huddleston. He got full name, though. He got Ken Huddleston. I just
Yeah,
said
no,
Huddleston.
I'm going to call it a tie. It's 2-1.
He got me. He said it first. I heard it
Okay,
before I said it.
Okay, it's 1-1. I mean, it's still right. Okay, it's tied up. Matt, you're lucky. It's not a 2-1 game right now. You're still in this. Okay. This angler won a Bass Masters tournament in 2010 on Clear Lake with a Rago BV.
Velvic.
Who said it?
Fired.
Josh, right?
Josh,
Yeah.
you're fired.
Yep.
You're fired.
Yep.
The
Gone.
Bachelor
Out.
is boys with these two. I'm texting Byron now.
Yeah.
Has brought the weak sauce. Josh, is that a 2-1?
That's 2-1.
lead?
Yeah.
For now. Yeah.
I kept wanting to say Kennedy. Kennedy was all I thought about at first, and then, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the answer is I can't spit them out fast enough. I'm like, oh, yep, he said it.
Yeah.
Okay. This glide bait is known to be one of the cheapest but most effective,
River to
and
Sea.
is super popular. Yep.
Yeah.
River to Sea what?
Dang it.
What river to sea, Matt? I'll let you finish.
That's flavor. That's flavor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 1-1-2, correct?
Yep.
This is a good game. This is a good game. Ready?
Phil Siementhal.
Ready? Okay.
Just
get
give him
ready
a point.
for
Just give him a point.
Give it to him.
I'll swallow. Okay. This swim bait angler was exposed for snagging.
Mike Long.
Mike Long.
Mike Long. Yep.
Oh!
That's-
No way. I said it
Oh.
first.
Matt said it? Okay.
I said it before you even finished.
It was a delay. It was a delay, so Matt got it.
Yeah.
So it's a tie. No, I say that's almost tied. You hear Matt first, Paul?
No.
So,
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't even let you finish, but it's
I
okay.
know.
Fine.
That's
Yeah.
why it's the delay. I give it to you.
Yeah.
I'll give it to
I'm
you.
gonna call tie. So that's is that
2-2.
2-2?
2-2.
2-2.
Two all.
Sure.
It's 2-2-1 to me. You guys have 2, I have 1.
No, because he's calling it a
No,
tie.
you.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
Yeah,
Two's
so-
up.
Oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Wait,
You
it's
all,
2, 3, 2. Right?
Who's got 3? Wait, you got 3?
Oh, I'm so.
All
No.
got 3?
No, that's.
No,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
I lost track. You'll find out later.
We're tight.
Real twos.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 2 all.
Yeah.
Knock it off, Josh.
My bad.
We're competitive.
Damn it.
Tournament.
Yeah.
Josh is probably right. Damn it, Josh. He'll be completely right. Okay. Hold on. Make sure everybody's ready for this. The most popular 8-inch boot tail of all time.
Huddleston.
Castaic.
What? Of course. Like, come on now.
What? Did I say it?
The HUD.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
Wait, is that considered a boot tail or a vortex?
That's a vortex. It's a false
No,
vortex.
it's a boot. It's a boot.
It's a boot.
Vortex.
I
You
get
gotta call it a boot.
I can see.
I've never called it a vortex tail.
It's a boot, haters. Those fish would have ate anything.
Yeah, one goes like this, one goes like this.
Hey, Matt said it.
Yeah.
Oh no, Matt wins.
Yeah.
Almost broke my stool on 5 margaritas. Okay, this is a hard one.
All right.
I'm gonna give you clues that describe this bait, so you have to think about the clues. It's like when someone shows you pictures of things and they end up formulating like a sentence. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Cheech and Chong, Tiger Paw, and the maker's name rhymes with Dan Math. The bait company's name rhymes with Dan Math, Cheech and Chong, Tiger Paw.
God, you said tiger, and all I could think of was Carol Baskins.
Yeah.
Husband whacked him.
Jesus.
So-
What's his name?
Yeah.
Tiger
There we
Paw
go.
is what I keep thinking
Guys,
of.
ready? You guys ready for the clue? I'm going to give you what the first clue means.
Yes.
Cheech and Chong are known for smoking joints. There's your first clue. Jointed
Triple trout.
You're way off. Sure.
Tiger
Claw,
Paw.
the jointed claw.
Jointed claw.
Jointed claw. Dan Matt. Jointed claw. Dan Crap.
Oh man, my girlfriend got that before I did. That's terrible.
Was she yelling it? Was she yelling it?
Yeah.
Wait, no.
Wait, what was the Dan part? Who?
I said the
Dan
bait
Crap.
maker's name rhymes with Dan Math.
Can crap. There you go.
Yeah.
What's the score? Who do we got?
Son
What
of
do we got?
I think it's 3-3-2. So Matt and Josh are tied, and I got 2.
Okay. So this is interesting because I only have one question left. We may end this thing in a tie. If Paul gets this, we have a 3-way tie.
Let's give it to Paul.
Oh, 3-way.
Don't you?
You're gonna have a
Don't
3-way.
you guys
Yeah,
dare?
three-way.
We're having a 3-way. Well, this just got weird.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
our first 3-way tonight.
Okay. You guys are gonna like this. This big topwater bait could be named after a white trash person that works for a carnival.
Punker?
Target.
Punker?
Gotta be.
Yes, Josh Parris
Oh.
is
Oh.
winner!
I don't get it
wow.
though.
So easy.
I didn't get that one. That's the first bit I thought of, but then I went to the clue. The white trash.
Yeah, it kind of threw me off, but the big top water was like the biggest top water.
Oh, you got it in 1 second. Dude, try to tell me that there's not a dude running the tilt-a-wheel named Lunker Punker.
Oh, for
Come
sure.
on!
For sure.
Small punker, fast.
You know Lunker Punker has pressed start on the Gravitron once or twice in his life.
Oh, man.
All right,
man.
Gentlemen, I greatly appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. I've attached Josh Parris's guide information, Paul Bailey's guide information. Matt, Guys, check out iRod. You know I own the company Sticks, which is a utility set of rods. If you're looking for specialized rods in particular categories, check out iRod. I've been with Matt for years. Matt also makes superior rods. If you guys are looking for specialized categories, definitely check them out. Compare them. We both make fantastic equipment. Make sure to check out Paul Bailey's guide service. Paul also uses iRod if you want to check him out on his boat. Josh, anything you guys like to mention to your sponsors, anything you've worked on, by all means, now's your time.
Josh, go ahead, bud.
I mean, yeah, all my support, you know, RB Bass, Optimum Baits, X-Zone, everybody. I mean, I really appreciate everybody, even more so just as of lately, just the supporters, man. I mean, it seems like with this whole deal, there's been a lot of negativity floating around on the internet, and just the guys who are positive and just the supporters, the people who are, you know, pushing forward and just staying positive during this whole deal, you know. I mean,
absolutely.
We're fishing. This is for fun. We love it. And yeah, everybody who supports me, all my clients, family, friends, you know, yeah, appreciate it. So, and you guys, I mean, even Paul and Matt, I mean, awesome just hearing you guys' point of views too. I mean, that was confirmed things, I think, and even kind of, I don't know, made some other things click in my head. So appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, Josh. Thanks.
Matt, you got anything you're working on? Any new things you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on stuff. I can't really talk about it. Obviously working on some cool stuff for next year. Yeah, so I just want to thank my pro staff and all my supporters. I mean, it's really cool, especially I run my own Instagram, the iRod Instagram, and it's getting the messages and I mean, it's insane the amount of pictures people share of their catches, whether it's a spotted bass that's this big or, you know, or a tuna. It's
a catch is a catch, guys. Be proud. You know, quit listening to the haters.
It is. I mean, I get geeked out over little things when they're, you know, only little anyway. It's always fun. So I got to thank all the support, you know, from my team to people who buy the rods. It's really cool to get all that feedback on social media, because that's where it is nowadays.
Absolutely.
It puts a smile on my face every morning when there's, you know, all those things on there. It's really cool. There's a lot of messages. Caught my first bass on an iRod, and that stuff's cool. It makes me smile being where I'm at. You know, like I was that kid for so long. Still am kind of. Yeah. It's cool, and it's cool.
Yeah, Paul. I know. Aside from Gancraft, man, Loud Jet Boats. Give it up for Loud Jet Boats.
Loud Jet Boats. Yeah. Hey, I definitely don't want to thank Bass Tracker. Who I do want to thank. Who I do want to thank is my girlfriend. You know, my girlfriend. I don't think she gets thanked enough. She does a lot of behind the scenes stuff, you know, for my guide business. I get a lot of messages
and
on.
us too, and iRod too. Thanks to Lisa.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah. But yeah, no, she does a lot of behind the scenes stuff for me that nobody sees. The calling back of clients. She books clients for me all day long. She'll respond to the messages that I get through social media, and she responds as herself. You know, hi, this is Pearl's girlfriend. He's out on a trip today, and she helps me out a bunch. I couldn't do it without her. To go fishing all day long, come home and make phone calls for 3, 4, or 5 hours a day is not the life I wanted to live, and I probably wouldn't live it without her. So that's cool. But you know, all you guys too. You know, you make this possible, Nick. You know, you've got a big platform for us to talk on, and you know, Josh, he's a killer guy. Me and him are going to share clients. You know, anybody that asks me about the Mother Lode Lakes now, you know, I'm going to send him Josh's way, and you know, and I'm sure he'll do the same. And it's this right here. It's networking, and networking at its finest is what you have to do to succeed in bass fishing. You can have fun and do it alone, but if you want to really succeed, you need a good network, and what we've got, and what, you know, me and Matt have, and our crew, and it's just awesome. And thank everybody, because that's why we are where we are today.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to attach everybody's social media links in the description of this video, as well as an index. So if you need to book Paul, you're going out towards Clear Lake, Berryessa. Paul, what all bodies of water do you guide aside from Berryessa and Clear Lake? I
do Clear Lake, Berryessa, and I'll do Lake Mendocino as well. It's just a little lake here in Ukiah. It's a really good fishery that not a lot of people know about. It is kind of off in the sticks, and it's not very big. It is just a little puddle, but they got some giant stripers and some giant largemouth in there.
There's stripers
Some
in
big
there.
carp.
Yeah.
They have
That's
big carp
news.
eating carps.
They've got giant honey carps in there. It's a cool lake. There's smallmouth in there. There's a lot of
Oh my
people.
God.
A lot of people don't know it, but it is a little gem that we've got up here. So I like to go there too when clients request it, but mainly Clear Lake, Berryessa, and Mendocino there.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I won't take the rest of your night. Thanks for tuning in. Maybe we'll elaborate on something else later on. I might have Matt on the full show with a bunch of buddies where we play games along with you. And Paul, of course, we're going to have you on that format as well.
Awesome.
But thanks for everybody tuning in. If you do have any questions that you would like to get back to these guys, please put them in the comment section. And make sure to like. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and click the bell notification. Gentlemen, thanks again. Have a good night.
We got to do the shoe off. We have to do the shoe off.
Shoe off.
Yes.
When the lake's open, man. I'm
Episode
so for
is
that.
coming.
I'm for real.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want a trophy.
We'll make a tennis shoe trophy.
This could be big. It could be the homemade tournament. There could be a homemade Swimbait tournament after this blows up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Has to be something from the house.
Household item.
Household item.
Did he just get
That's
that one
killer.
top water on the Palm Olive bottle? He did.
For real,
Yeah.
for real. Think about that. The guy, he's got a popper as a. He is. This could be
the hand soap popper.
There's something to this, dude. There's something to this, man. It'd be really fun. Just any household lure. It doesn't have to be a swim bait. It could be anything, you know.
Anything. Toothbrush.
Toothbrush,
Yep.
dude.
Toothbrush, rip bait.
genius.
There we go.
Toothbrush rip bait. That'll work.
Yeah.
Dude,
Serious.
there's
When
something.
you pause it, those bristles is what draws.
Uh-huh. That's the new. That's the new pulse tail.
Yeah, a big hairbrush. Oh, I could go for days. You're getting me going. I better let you guys go.
All right.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Thanks.
Uh-oh.
Paul, this is
Oh,
what I've been
geez.
bed fishing with lately. I got 2 tanks on this 16-incher.
Oh, I bet, man.
Jesus.
I bet.
Put that thing on a kite.
Dude, I could only throw that sucker maybe 50, 60 feet at best.
Yeah.
Because it's 24 ounces.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
A pound and a half.
I don't know.
I almost had an eat on this thing from an 8-pounder.
Holy.
Just bombing it out, dude. Just over the top of one of my fish shelters in my lake. And that thing came out and just boom, came up and tailed it, but didn't come back. I'm like,
Oh.
that would have been the shit ever.
That would have been cool.
Wow.
Yep.
You're good.
All right. Have a good night,
All right.
guys.
All right, guys. See you later.
Guys. Good night.
And I'm
All
gonna
right,
call you,
later.
Josh.